Good evening. The title of this video is in reference to a video I made quite a while back, years back, when I was just starting out, and it was one of the first ranty videos that I made. And it recently got mentioned in an episode of Hocus Focus. And I thought, rather than make a part 2, I want to extrapolate a little bit on what it is that irritates me so much about this type. And it's pretty straightforward, really, but I don't think I accurately expressed it, or expressed it in a way that I now, looking back on it, find satisfying. I will say a bit more about it here in a bit of a less ranty way. Well, like I said, it's pretty straightforward why I have an issue with this type of person that dwells in occult groups and circles and forums. Because we've all encountered this type, and I'm pretty sure that this type of person has held you back from delving deeper into a certain magical system, in a certain philosophy, or even to just explore more from anything, really. I'm absolutely certain everyone that watches this video has encountered a person like that and has had a negative feedback from them in some type of way that has stopped you from learning more about the subject, or even yourself. Well, it's a bit two-folded, my issue with them, because on one hand, they are gatekeepers. They are like the home association of occultism, the church ladies of esotericism. You know the type, the church lady, you know them. They want to have as much power as the priest, but because they're women, most likely, usually unmarried women, never managed to get married and have children and a family, which would divert all that attention to some place where it actually mattered. But these women want the same power as the priest has, but they can't get it because they cannot get ordained as a priest because they're women. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. I know America has some certain Christian faiths can have female preachers, but in Catholicism that is not true. And where I grew up, Catholicism was the norm. So I only know that. I can only speak about that and that type of church lady. But I'm sure you'll find them everywhere. Anyway, they want to have the same power as the priest. They want people to defer to them. They want to be the middleman between the priest and anyone else. That way, they can exert power and influence. They can domineer what information trickles through to the priest. They have control that way. In the same way that the priest exerts control by saying that there cannot be a direct connection between the peasant and the divine. This is why they didn't want the peasantry to be able to read in the Middle Ages, because, well, then they could read the Bible for themselves. Why would they have need of a priest? They needed the priest to translate or, well, convey what was in the Bible. And very often that priest would twist what is in the Bible to his own benefit in order to exploit the peasantry in his parish. That is without a doubt. So this all happened on a large scale. In fact, the whole idea of redemption is a relatively new one in our history in Europe. This was invented by the church, by the way. The idea of redemption, you can wash away your sins if you just pay, literally pay. You could pay to have your sins expunged, washed away. Your road to heaven is wide open from here on. Basically, the priest and the church saw a way to earn money, and that is how the idea of redemption came to be. In the pagan world, there was no such thing as redemption. You have something to redeem yourself for. You either go directly to the person you have wronged or make it up with your gods in the afterlife. Fair, if you ask me. But anyway, that's all. That's neither here nor there. Yeah, the magical Karens. I remember why I got so irritated, why that prompted me to make that video. It was a post that I read on MeWe about a woman. Well, it was from a woman who made a post about runes, which is of course a subject that I care deeply about. And what the thing she was saying was just wrong. And the point is that it didn't even really matter whether she was wrong or not. But the whole tone in which it was written was very matter-of-factly. Well, if we go into the it's a matter of fact in the spiritual, in the world of spirituality and occultism and esotericism, it's no longer spiritual, it's dogma from that point on. And she was writing it as there is some unwritten law that everybody must adhere to when they work with runes. And then she was completely wrong about everything she said. Completely wrong, as in from my own experience, what I've heard from other people's experiences, and just what I've read about the subject myself. And I have read a lot about them. A lot of bullshit also. That's probably the vast majority of things that have been written about runes is utter tripe and bullshit. Now, I will admit that runes are a very life-affirming magic system, but that doesn't mean that there is any, fluff or saccharine about it. Not at all. At least not in my interpretation. I don't want to tell you how to interpret the runes. I don't. I can only tell you my experience. And I think in my videos that I have made that a point very often, that it's not up to me to tell you what to do with your magic, with your spirituality. That's entirely up to you. But I can only share what I know. I can maybe hypothesize, but at the end of the day, I can only speak about what I have directly experienced myself. And I think that I've been consistent in that. But anyway, the point about the magical Karens is, they're gatekeepers. And they impede people from fully getting to know a magical system or to make full use of a magical system. Because this woman who wrote that essay with a bullet point presentation even, that made it so much more obnoxious, is that you're not helping anybody with this. At the end of the day, I think spirituality, and especially magic and occultism, should be something that enhances your life. And if you are constantly worried that you are doing it wrong, or that you are breaking some kind of unwritten rule, then what's the point? You might as well be religious at that stage. There's no difference anymore. But that's what they want. They want the power. They want people to defer to them. Because these things like runes, and even things like voodoo, let's say, or shamanism, they have no real leaders. As in, they have no real leaders. There are none. There can be people that have a following around them because they're interesting, or because you like what they have to say, and lots of people happen to like what they have to say. But are they leaders? They're not telling us what to do at the end of the day. They're also just speaking from their experience, because once those people start to tell other people what to do, they become priests, preachers. They are no longer a pagan. They've become religious dogmatics. If you feel differently about it, then feel free to share that in the comments. I'm willing to listen to your point of view. But Wicca, for instance, does have its priestesses and high priestess, which I also made a video about. But yeah, and it's these types that tend to do this often, that they tell other people how to perform a certain branch of spirituality. Because they like that. In the words of Christian Morris, they are singing the song of their people. That's what they do. They like that kind of power. And very often they will tell people things what not to do rather than what to do. Because what to do, that is a way wider variety of things that can inspire creativity rather than put impediments on spirituality. For instance, if you say you can be a creative person, or you can be indulging in certain shamanic practices, and then say, but you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't do such and so. Well, I have come to find out that the reason why they tell these things, all the things that you should not do, is because they just like telling people what to do and what not to do, especially. Because then they can enact their judgment upon you and be disapproving. Exactly like the church ladies. The homeowners association. God, everybody hates those cunts, don't they? We don't have them here, luckily. But yeah, that is why I dislike them. And more often than not, there's such a double standard that these creatures uphold. Because these same types have their mouth full about cultural appropriation. And while I don't actually disagree with them on that as a person from Europe, let's say, we shouldn't necessarily be indulging ourselves in branches of spirituality to which we have no genetic or cultural or historic connection to. I agree. We have no business in there. We are interlopers in that. But that never, ever seems to be true for things like runes. That's for everybody. That everybody could become a Vitki, a rune master. Double standard is so real, isn't it? So something that is inherently Germanic, Scandinavian, it's for everybody. It's nowhere else in the world. Germania, Scandinavia, that's it. Their justification is that it is the All-Father, the Father of all. Well, we can discuss that. We should discuss that, maybe. Does that mean the Father of all mankind, or does it mean the Father of all the gods? Good question, because in case of the latter, it is a title more than a name. A title that should be respected. But yeah, no, the cultural appropriation only goes for non-European practices, and I have seen that to be especially true for runes. And look, I have no problem with non-European people taking an interest in runes, not at all. On the contrary, it's not even up to me. But the double standard of these creatures irks me so much. And that is not the only contradiction that I keep finding with these gatekeepers, these magical Karens. We should all just do what they fear the most, and that is pretend they don't exist. And if you have to react to them in any way, let it be a reaction of, okay, whatever, Karen. And that's really it. Thanks for listening.